Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft as we bring you game 2 in this series between our blue Zerg in the bottom right hand corner. It's going to be Starbuck, and our red Protoss player in the top left hand corner. It's going to be Sjaak. So for those of you who saw game 1, was very quick, very action packed, lots of aggression from both players early on. Unfortunately for Sjaak, Starbuck was able to get the upper hand there and take that game, so he is leading this series 1-all, best of 3. So Sjaak fighting for his tournament life at the moment. We'll see if he can make a comeback here in game number 2. Map is of course King Sejong Station. One of my favourite maps in the current map pool at the moment. One of the reasons for it is you do have this quite easy to secure natural expansion. However, whilst it's easy to secure initially, you can wall off this area. A very large ramp, so it makes for quite dynamic play early on. Not as safe transition to a late macro game as many of the maps, so it makes it very dynamic for early games. There's also the added danger for you that these rocks can come down. Also, there's lots of fun proxy locations, things like Stargates can be proxied very close to your opponent's base. For example, tucked either up here or up here. Very quick travel time in your enemy's base and quite difficult and slow to scout. So we'll see if any of that occurs here. We have Starbuck. Looks like he is going for a pull before hatch, so a little bit less common there. Not often that you see that. We can see Starbuck actually having a good look around here. Wants to make sure he doesn't fall prone to any crazy proxy gateway shenanigans. We've seen him scout his main base completely. Going to take a good look around for things like cannon rushes. First Overlord, it's quite a travel distance to your opponent's base, so he doesn't know if Sjaak has in fact dropped a forge or a gateway first, or gone for something very greedy like a nexus first. Looks like Sjaak is going to be doing, could well go for a gateway expand here, but we notice he's actually mining from both his guys already. Could be a sign that he does want to drop a Stargate. Could proxy that, but a bit late for a proxy Stargate. Normally you would expect that to have come down some time ago. This probe going to take a quick look down the ramp, but in fact well short of the minerals needed to build a nexus, so Sjaak going to send him back to do some mining. Overlord's going to take up position here. Cybercore coming down. Second hatch coming down now for Starbuck, and Starbuck's just continuing to drone quite heavily. A few Zerglings coming up just to get in some map presence, a little bit of scouting, make life a little bit difficult for Starbuck, and wherever you can as a Zerg player, you really want to slow down the Protoss base progression. And naturally that can be said of any race, any time, but particularly Zerg do need to stay a base ahead of the Protoss player to stay on par. Protoss player will tend to trade very efficiently particularly in these early combats, and unless you can catch a Protoss army out in the middle of the field with a nice surround, they will trade very effectively with you throughout the game. Going to be starting that warp gate research here and commencing the wall off. Nexus has gone down, and I imagine we'll see Starbuck go for his third base quite soon. Queen going to make it down the natural and is going to be able to throw an inject at some point. We could always go for the creep tumor. Some Zerg players do elect to throw the creep tumor first, get that creep spray going. Sometimes they don't actually need the injection just as quick as that, or potential that Starbuck is waiting for this queen so that he can drop both injects. No, looks like he's going to be the creep tumor option. Creep spread very important, particularly with that third base is about to go down. This probe actually could be perfectly timed to make life a little bit difficult. Looks like Sjaak's just going to scout instead, so I imagine we'll see that hatchery thrown down, and there it goes. Looks like the wall off's underway now. A sentry here to complete that if necessary against any early Zerglings. A few Overlords positioned around the map. Zerglings doing a little bit of a scout out here, so probe is going to be able to drop another gateway to complete that wall off. It will be nice and tight. Gateway going to have to be moved there so that units can be allowed in and out. Unfortunately, just off center in his rush, Sjaak dropped it out of position, but going to correct that, make sure his own units can get in and out. This creep actually is quite a lot of creep spread, so really favouring that creep rather than some of those early injects, but I think that's going to pay great dividends for Starbuck moving forward. This creep is actually going to be connected to his third base very quickly, which is extremely important, particularly against some of the two base Protoss all-ins that you will see. If Sjaak isn't if Starbuck isn't careful, Sjaak could surprise him with a few early sentries and zealots and make life very difficult to hold this third base. So the Queen's already in position, the creep is moving out. You can see the double creep tumor on the lower side, indicating that Starbuck's desperate to get that creep connected as quickly as possible, and he can continue spreading to the left once they come off cooldown. A lot of sentries and zealots here. We have plenty of proxy pylons being established, so Sjaak looking to get very aggressive. Is 4-gate aggression here on 2 bases, so potential for a lot of units to be warped in quite quickly. Roaches have started to come out. There is 4 on the field, 4 more in production, so lots of zealots wanting to get these on top of the sentries wherever possible. As soon as these force fields are out, it will make it much easier for the Zerg player to engage. But it looks like Starbuck has in fact got the mothership core. That is a great little pickup for him, means he can counterattack quite aggressively beyond this. Has grabbed another sentry as well, so there's a lot of stalkers and zealots on the field. Starbuck really will need to get some extra units out to hold this. In fact, we do have another 5 roaches coming up, but he is starting to run out of gas, as you can see. Not now that he's mining gas on only 2 geysers, meaning he's coming up short of those roach wins. His mineral count well and truly above that of his gas. So going to want to be mining that gas in a ratio in which he can continue to build roaches as quickly as possible. We do have all those minerals spent down, going to be replacing the queens that were lost. Of course, killing the queens does dramatically help him. Killing the mothership core does dramatically help him. It was something that without the queens he can't actually target upwards. The mothership core can rain fire down on zerglings and roaches all day long. So just Sjaak going to pull back here. Actually looks like he may open the base himself, which bit of an interesting choice rather than expand out to the natural third base. Looks like Sjaak actually going to take this third base towards his opponent, get very aggressive. We had I think that was a hallucinated phoenix indeed, making its way through, doing a bit of a scout. Great use of that sentry energy, going to make sure he knows exactly what's going on with his opponent. Lots more sentries morphing in. The robotics facility already on the field, but no immortals in play yet, which is a little bit strange. Normally we'd expect to see those immortals already. I imagine once this observer is out, we will see the immortals being chrono boost out quite quickly. Sjaak will want to add a few immortals in, turn this into a sort of sentry immortal all in. Not as quick as perhaps a straight sentry immortal would have hit, but that early gateway pressure did do a lot of damage to Starbuck. If we look at the income tab, Starbuck is leading by about 10 harvesters, which is very much what you'd expect the Zerg player to be. The thing that Starbuck has to be careful of, Protoss also going up to 3 bases. The third base obviously not in his expected location. These overlords getting a great idea of what's going on. Unfortunately, bad rally point's going to kill a few of these zealots, but the remainder of the gateway force is going to be able to pull in here. The fact that the observers with the army is going to allow it to clean up. There's great creep spread. We can see Starbuck just pushing forward quite quickly with this creep spread. These roaches doing a fair bit of damage here. The immortal going to have to go to work on these roaches. Got to be careful, otherwise the roaches will be getting us around. Nice force field there. Actually will keep all the roaches on the other side, which is excellent news for Sjaak. It's going to allow this immortal to do so much work. 3 kills already. The drones, even the probes being pulled off to do some work. Unfortunately, some roaches flowing in that open side gate, and this immortal's going to have to make a break for it up the ramp. The immortal up to 5 kills now. A few zealots warp in to keep the roaches at the bottom of the ramp. Great positioning there from our young Protoss player, able to defend the ramp and do massive damage with that immortal just seriously going to town. 7 kills already. Second immortal out now. He's going to put an end to that roach pressure. Great force field's going to trap all of these workers in. Unfortunately, a little bit slow on that last force field means that some of them will make it away. Actually, I have swarm hosts on the map, so 12-minute swarm hosts. Very quick and not a lot of them, but certainly going to be enough to trade well with these zealots and stalkers. Unfortunately for Starbuck, his natural expansion has dropped. His third base is quite exposed, so this is a very difficult position for Starbuck to be in. We have Sjaak already up to 3 bases, and Starbuck about to lose his second, so you've got to be super careful. Mothership core tanking the spore, always a little bit dangerous there. You don't want to take too much damage to Mothership core. Obviously that great big Nexus cannon ability, very useful in holding things off, but looks like Sjaak isn't very worried about holding. He's all keen on the press. We actually have a Nidus coming up into the Protoss main base, and this game is starting to get just a little bit silly here. It's not something we see every day. This could be the 4 Zerglings, or it could be, in fact, it's going to be the Swarm host going straight into the Protoss main base. So this is This is very crazy. I love this play from Starbuck. Nice counterattack. But the Protoss army is going to move straight up into the main base of Starbuck. So it's on Donkey Kong. Everything, all the stops being pulled out here. Looks like Sjaak's actually going to fall back, and I'm going to say I don't know that I hugely agree with that decision from Starbuck there. I think Starbuck had committed fairly heavily to this Nidus, and Sjaak should have pushed straight up the ramp rather than do so. It looks like, actually, where has our Protoss army got to? Oh, mass recall is going to allow him to clean up this Nidus network and defend his main base. But personally, I think at the time there was only 2 or 3 swarm hosts, and there was an observer with the army, so I think there was potential for Sjaak to actually push forward and do a little bit of damage there. But I guess not wanting to overcommit and lose, this is his life on the line. Doesn't want to lose this game. Desperately needs to win to take this to a 3rd game and give himself an opportunity to progress in this series. So you have Sjaak going to be stepping back onto creep. The swarm hosts are now here, spawning locusts. So I don't know that we actually have the enduring locust upgrade yet. Let's check for that in the upgrade tab. No, indeed, it isn't on the field yet. And that is quite an important upgrade. Extra 20 seconds with those locusts, very important. Looks like we're going to have another Nidus. I love this scrappy play out of Starbuck. Nidus network swarm host. It's going to be fantastic. Going to do a lot of damage to Starbuck, particularly if he's not careful. These locusts going to trade very well against the expansion. Could actually unpower these gateways if he's not careful. So Starbuck going to need to pull back just a little bit here. There's no Colossus on the field for Sjaak. He is getting that Robotics Bay back in his main base, but got to be careful without the Colossus. Will lose units very quick. Starbuck going to re-establish his natural, which is exceptionally important as he is almost mined out in his main base. So going to want to be doing that damage very quickly. Have some swarm hosts making their way out of the Nidus network here, but unfortunately not getting in position quick enough. We have Protoss units making their way across. The Queen's even joining. I love this from Starbuck. Going to be able to drop some creep tumors. Also going to be able to provide some anti-air support where necessary. So this is doing actually a lot of damage to the Protoss ground army. Potential to kill that Warp Prism. Going to warp in on top of these Queens. Oh no, the force fields. That's going to stop Starbuck from being able to get back in his Nidus network. He can't unburrow here. He literally I don't think he can make it through that gap, which means all of these swarm hosts are going to be stuck in position. There's no observer with this army, so unfortunately Starbuck unable to actually focus these swarm hosts down just yet, but there's too many units on top of them. They're unable to move without taking obscene amounts of damage. These Queens stuck on the surface, taking a lot of damage. No burrow, unfortunately, means that only a swarm host can fight these 5 swarm hosts trying to retreat into this Nidus network. Unfortunately, more force fields are going down, and Sjaak is doing a great job of preventing Starbuck from retreating. Unfortunately, not enough units to push forward and do the damage he's trying to do to these swarm hosts, but swarm hosts very slow off creep. Got to be very careful here. 3 immortals with so many kills. There's 21 kills on one immortal, 14 on another, doing serious work. But now that the observers with the army, these swarm hosts have to be so careful. One goes down, every wave of locust is going to be that little bit weaker. So Starbuck really going to need to produce some units here. We have a first infestor on the way along with some Hydralisks. The Roach Warren finally getting remade now. Starbuck tries to cobble back together his game here. It's been picked apart from Sjaak thus far, but Starbuck desperately trying to hold the line with a few of these spine crawlers and swarm hosts and doing a great job of it. It looked like he was certainly going to fall, but some really scrappy defense and counterattacks there, managing to keep him in the game. Looks like the Protoss player is going to come barreling down this, barreling through this wall here. Spine Crawl's already in great position. It's going to be a fantastic concave for Starbuck at the top of this ramp here. I think it'll be fairly perilous for Sjaak to actually engage here, and it looks like he will indeed fall back. 3rd base has gone down as well from Sjaak. We missed that in the earlier fighting, but I think a counterattack took care of that whilst the army was occupied in the main base. So looks like it has normalised at a somewhat more normal looking stage. 20 minutes in, normally our players are going up to 3rd and 4th bases. We have the 3rds of Starbuck just starting to get saturated now. It's done almost well, it's done a little bit of mining, but not nearly as much work as we would expect a Zerg player to have mined at this point. Sjaak reclaiming his third. His main base for both our players almost completely mined out. Naturals will follow suit very quickly. Only 2 or 3 minutes left of mining on these natural expansions, and we'll see where our players decide to move from here. It looks like Starbuck actually going for a very interesting Zergling Hydra sort of composition, and this is exceptionally good against gateway forces. The gateway units waste all their DPS on the Zerglings while the Hydras just eat them alive. We'll see if it's enough. Starbuck actually starting to get some Colossi on the field. Number 1 is in play. It has got that, oh sorry, 2 I think, tucked away under there. Indeed it is, hiding behind the mothership core. It's going to be our second Colossus, both with extended thermal lance, so you got to be super careful. A few Zerglings trying to make their way around the outside of this map, and seldom do we see this path actually used. The far destructible rocks, potential to come back and take this base from behind. Looks like the Protoss player will find these Zerglings, and speed finishing up for them as well. It looked at one point like they weren't actually speedlings, but I think that might have been a bit of an optical illusion there. Speed, of course, finished up for Starbuck. Fourth base being taken on the right hand side, and Starbuck really starting to make the moves that'll get himself back in this game. Getting that economy back online. 3 bases fully saturated now. Fourth base coming up exactly where he needs to be against a 3 base Protoss. Though with the amount of Colossi on the field, ideally would love to have either some Vipers or Corruptors. Some Vipers to yank in the Colossus, or some Corruptors to just fly over the top and take him out. These Speedlings actually going to make it inside this third base, but Archon can do so much damage. +1 attack is just going to literally zap, one-shot these Zerglings. Not a whole lot of upgrades for either melee or range attacks from our Zerg player. We have +1 range attack, +1 carapace, but no other upgrades on those Zerglings. They will not kill us Archon. In fact, he's going to go up to 20 kills here as he cleans up that Zergling counter attack. Protoss army pushing forward here. Swarm host being forced back, and Starbuck desperate to try and get in position, but it looks like our Protoss player may have too much of these 3 Colossi along with these Immortals, just providing devastating firepower. Great time warp catches most of those swarm hosts out of position, and looks like the Protoss army is going to be able to push forward and claim victory here. So Sjaak, our scrappy Protoss player, going to be evening this series up 1-all. I don't think there's a whole lot Starbuck can do to fix it. There's 12 Hydras on the production tab, but 3 Colossus will eat Hydraless for breakfast. They are in fact delicious, and it looks like Starbuck will be forced out of his own base here. His own swarm host being forced back towards that 4th base, but there is just too much Protoss firepower here. 110 supply to 40, and drones being pulled off the line. They are going to kill that 34 kill Immortal there. The poor Executor Immortal dying to drones. A little bit embarrassing for him, but not embarrassing for our Protoss player, who's even this series up 1-all against Starbuck. So Sjaak ought to be very happy with himself, managing to claw his way back in this series. It is 1 game all. We'll see who takes this series in the final game 3, which is coming up just after the break, guys. Don't go anywhere. There's Aussie StarCraft, and I'll catch you in the next cast.